At the heart of all beauty lies something inhuman, Albert Camus. There's a kind of pain that doesn't come from wounds, mistakes, or tragedy. It's quieter, colder. It arrives in moments of stillness, when the noise fades and you're left alone with the unbearable weight of simply existing. A pain that has no name, no clear cause, and no solution. Just the raw discomfort of being conscious in a universe that remains silent. Camus knew this feeling intimately. The pain of existence isn't a flaw in you. It's not something broken. It's the natural consequence of a mind awake enough to notice the gap between life's chaos and our desperate craving for meaning. The absurd isn't a philosophical concept. It's the ache behind your ribs when nothing feels enough. If you've ever felt this weight, the heaviness of waking up, of continuing, of carrying yourself through a world that refuses to explain itself, you are not broken. You are awake. This is the absurd mind. If this resonates, subscribe, leave a like to support this reflection, and stay with me. Because today, we're going to uncover why existing hurts so much and how Camus believed we could survive it. It begins before you even have the words to describe it. A heaviness that seeps into the background of life. Not loud, not catastrophic, just persistent. You wake up, look around, and realize that existing itself carries a weight no one prepared you for. The quiet pressure of being conscious, of knowing that time is passing, that nothing lasts, that every moment is slipping irreversibly into the past. No one teaches you how to carry this invisible burden, the slow realization that life moves forward without asking if you're ready. The universe remains silent, unmoved by your questions, indifferent to your existence. And in that silence, something cracks. Camus called it the absurd, the collision between our need for clarity, meaning, and certainty, and a world that offers none. This pain doesn't announce itself with drama. It arrives in the smallest moments, the empty quiet after finishing something you worked so hard for, the hollowness at the peak of success, the strange emptiness of a Sunday afternoon when there's nothing urgent left to distract you. It's the discomfort of realizing that even when life seems full, busy schedules, relationships, responsibilities, something deeper feels missing. You start to notice how the routines designed to distract you slowly become cages. Everything is moving, but you feel stuck. You are here, breathing, alive, yet haunted by a simple, devastating question. Is this all there is? Camus saw this not as a personal flaw, but as the fundamental human condition. The absurd isn't a problem to solve. It's the natural outcome of being awake in a universe that does not explain itself. The trees grow, the planets spin, the seasons change, but none of it answers why. Why you're here, why you should continue. This dissonance between human consciousness and an indifferent cosmos creates an existential pressure most people spend their lives trying to ignore. But when you stop ignoring it, when the distractions fail, you feel it fully. The unbearable weight of simply being. And yet, the world keeps telling you that this discomfort means something is wrong with you. That you need to hustle more, achieve more, heal, meditate, be grateful, be productive, find your purpose. But no amount of self-improvement fills the gap, because the gap isn't inside you. It's between you and existence itself. Between your mind, desperate for answers, and a universe that offers nothing but silence. This is the core of the absurd. The pain of existing isn't a glitch. It's the cost of being conscious in a reality that never agreed to play by human rules. This is why the weight of existing feels so heavy. It's not just about mortality, it's about meaning, about the terrifying realization that life continues, with or without you, with or without purpose. Camus argued that most people survive this tension by running into religion, ideology, consumption, distractions, anything that offers a comforting story. But for those who stop running, the absurd stands fully revealed. The pain of existence stares back with quiet, merciless clarity. And yet this is not the end of the story. Camus didn't write about the absurd to crush us. He wrote about it to free us, to show that while the pain of existence is real, it doesn't have to lead to despair. The realization that life is meaningless can become the foundation for a freedom most never dare to claim. But to reach that point, you first have to stand face to face with the absurd and not look away. The pain of existence becomes sharpest the moment the illusions collapse. For years, maybe decades, you follow the script: study, work, love, achieve, believing that at the end of each milestone lies relief, clarity, purpose. But then something fractures. The promotion doesn't silence the emptiness. The relationship doesn't dissolve the doubt. The next goal feels hollow before it's even reached. The realization dawns brutally. You weren't chasing fulfillment. You were running from the void, and now the void has caught up. Camus described this as the precise moment the absurd strikes, when the routines fail, when the noise fades, and when you are left alone with the terrifying realization that the universe was never offering answers. It was only ever offering itself, indifferent, silent, unmoved. This collapse isn't always dramatic. Often it's quiet. It arrives when you've achieved everything you were told would make you happy, and happiness doesn't come. It shows up at 2 a.m., when sleep won't arrive and every distraction feels meaningless. It creeps in while scrolling endlessly, hoping the next post will numb the discomfort, but it doesn't. It never does. Because beneath the surface, your consciousness knows the truth, that you are a thinking, breathing, temporary fragment of a universe that has no obligation to make sense, no obligation to justify your suffering or your existence. This is the crack where the absurd floods in, subtle, merciless, undeniable. Camus argued that the modern world is expertly designed to hide this crack, to flood your senses with distractions, with tasks, with stories, with endless consumption. You are told that feeling empty is a personal failure, that it means you aren't productive enough, spiritual enough, disciplined enough. The world sells you cures for a sickness it created. But the truth, the brutal truth, Camus whispered, is that the sickness isn't personal, it's existential. It's the unavoidable outcome of being conscious inside a reality that was never designed for humans. A reality that does not care about meaning, fairness, or purpose. And here's the trap. The more you resist the void, the louder it becomes. The more you try to outrun it, with busyness, with pleasure, with distraction, the more suffocating it feels when the noise stops. Because the void waits. Always. Quiet. Patient. Indifferent. No achievement outruns it. No relationship erases it. No success fills it. The pain of existence is the gap between what your mind demands, order, purpose, reason, and what reality delivers, silence. Indifference. Chaos dressed as beauty, or beauty dressed as chaos. Either way, the silence is absolute. But here is where most people either collapse or fall back asleep. They choose the blue pill. They surrender to the scripts. Convince themselves that if they just try harder, buy more, work more, love harder, pray louder, the pain will go away. And maybe for a while it does. The distractions hold, the illusion returns. But the rebel, the one Camus speaks to, doesn't fall back asleep. They stay awake. They face the void without flinching. They refuse the comfort of the lie, because in that refusal, painful, terrifying, isolating, something begins to shift. Camus wrote not to trap you in despair, but to show that when you stop demanding the universe explain itself, when you accept the silence instead of resisting it, a strange kind of freedom emerges. A freedom not from the void, but within it. The realization that if life has no inherent meaning, then you are terrifyingly, beautifully free to create your own. This is the strange alchemy Camus offered, not the elimination of suffering, but its transformation. The pain of existing doesn't disappear because you understand the absurd. Instead, it evolves. It stops being a source of paralysis and becomes a signal, a reminder, a compass. It reminds you that the clock is ticking, that nothing is guaranteed, that everything is fragile. And because of that, because nothing lasts, because the void is real, every choice you make matters more, not less. Every act of creation, every expression of love, every moment of presence becomes a deliberate, conscious rebellion against the silence. You stop living automatically. You start living intentionally, not to escape the void, but to fill it with meaning you choose. This reframing doesn't come with ease. The world around you will continue selling illusions. promises of easy happiness, instant answers, simple solutions. But the rebel knows better. The rebel understands that comfort is cheap and that real freedom costs everything. It costs the death of false hope, the surrender of the idea that life will one day neatly explain itself. It costs the willingness to walk through the fire of uncertainty without flinching. But on the other side of that fire is something most people never experience, a life that feels undeniably, brutally, beautifully yours, not borrowed, not scripted, not inherited. Chosen. The transformation also demands embracing contradiction. You love while knowing love is temporary. You create while knowing your creations will fade. You invest in relationships, knowing loss is inevitable. And yet, precisely because of that impermanence, those moments become sacred. Camus believed that fully conscious joy is not the absence of pain. It's the decision to embrace life in full awareness of its fragility. The sunset is more beautiful because it fades. The laughter is sweeter because it will end. The embrace is warmer because it cannot last forever. This awareness turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Drinking coffee in silence, sitting beside someone you love, watching the wind move through the trees. These are no longer filler moments between milestones. They become the milestones. The rebel stops waiting for life to begin. They understand. This is it. This ordinary, fleeting, fragile moment is all there is. And because it's all there is, it's enough. Not because the void has disappeared, but because you have chosen to fill the void with presence, with choice, with consciousness. Camus' answer to the pain of existence was never escape. It was confrontation. Not to fight the absurd, hoping to defeat it, but to stand beside it, fully awake, and say, yes, you are real, and so am I. In this posture, the void becomes a companion, not an enemy. A reminder that nothing is promised and that precisely because of that everything is precious. This isn't a life free from suffering. It's a life where suffering coexists with meaning, with joy, with beauty, and with the quiet pride of someone who knows they are living on their own terms. In the end, this is what it means to live inside the absurd. To carry the pain of existence not as a curse, but as a badge of being awake. To wake each day knowing the universe offers no answers, and to live anyway. To breathe, love, create, laugh, cry, endure, not because it solves the absurd, but because it's what the absurd demands of those brave enough to face it. This is the quiet triumph Camus described. A life without illusions, a life without guarantees, a life fully awake. This is the hidden victory of the absurd rebel, the decision to continue. Not because life makes sense, not because the pain disappears, but because in the face of a silent, indifferent universe, continuing becomes an act of defiance. Breathing becomes an act of rebellion. Smiling, creating, loving, each of these becomes a refusal to let the void define you. Camus understood this rebellion as the purest form of freedom. A freedom that doesn't wait for answers. A freedom that says, I know the rules of this game, and I choose to play anyway. This is the strength born from looking into the abyss, not to be swallowed by it, but to stare back and say, I am still here. The rebel's strength is not about invulnerability. It's not the absence of fear, doubt, or suffering. It's the decision to carry those things without collapsing beneath them, to wake up knowing the absurd waits and still choose to engage with life. This isn't naive optimism. It's not toxic positivity. It's clarity. The clearest possible understanding of what it means to be conscious in a world that does not care. And yet, instead of retreating, the rebel leans in. They choose to fill the silence with action, with presence, with meaning they create. And in that, the pain of existing is transformed, not erased, but redefined. This choice changes everything. When you stop waiting for life to explain itself, you stop postponing your existence. You realize there is no later, no someday when things finally make sense. There is only now, this breath, this step, this moment. And in claiming it fully, you begin to taste a kind of freedom that's impossible to describe to those still trapped in illusion. It's a freedom that doesn't deny suffering but includes it. A freedom that sees mortality not as a curse, but as the very thing that gives life its sharpness, its urgency, its beauty. Camus never suggested this would be easy. On the contrary, he understood that this is the hardest path. To reject false hope, to refuse comforting lies, to embrace the void without being devoured by it. But the reward for walking this path is profound. The quiet, unshakable knowledge that you are living awake. That every choice, every moment, every breath is fully yours, not borrowed from someone else's script, not handed down by culture or fear. Yours, chosen, created. This is why the rebel smiles. Not because the burden is light, but because it is theirs. The weight of existence, once seen as unbearable, becomes something sacred, something that grounds you in reality instead of pushing you away from it. The rebel understands that life doesn't need to make sense to be worth living. That the lack of cosmic meaning is not a verdict, it's an invitation to create, to love, to exist fully awake, fully responsible, fully free. And in the end, this is what the pain of existing becomes, a reminder that nothing is guaranteed, that everything is fleeting, that the void is real, but so are you. And in the space between those truths, you find not despair, but possibility. The possibility of a life lived not in fear of the void, but in full, conscious defiance of it. This is the rebel's gift. This is Camus' gift. The understanding that while the absurd may define the world, it does not have to define you. The pain of existing doesn't disappear. It remains. A quiet, persistent reminder that you are awake, that you are alive, and that the universe, in all its silence and indifference, is not here to guide you. But Camus showed us that this pain is not a curse. It is the price of consciousness, the price of being a creature who refuses to fall back asleep. And in that pain, beneath the heaviness, beneath the dread, is the foundation of a different kind of life, one built not on illusion, not on false hope, but on the undeniable truth of your own existence. Here, now, most will run, most will choose. Distractions, noise, false narratives, anything to avoid looking directly at the void. But the rebel doesn't run. The rebel stands, faces it, and in doing so transforms the weight of existence into the fuel for a life fully lived. A life where meaning is not found, but made, not handed down, but crafted. Pain becomes a signal, a reminder of freedom, of the rare, terrifying, beautiful truth that nothing is promised. And because nothing is promised, everything you choose matters more. Camus never lied to us. He never said this would be easy. He never offered comfort. What he offered was something stronger, clarity, the clarity that comes from seeing the absurd as it is without flinching, the clarity that frees you from the endless search for answers that will never come. And in that clarity, a new kind of meaning emerges, a meaning not written in the stars, but forged in the choices you make, the presence you embody, and the rebellion you commit to daily. This rebellion is not loud. It's not visible to most, but it is constant. It is the decision to wake up, to breathe, to continue, not because life is easy, not because it makes sense, but because you are free to choose. You are free to create, free to love, free to shape your brief existence into something honest, something awake, something real. Even when the void whispers, you are still here, choosing. So yes, existing hurts. It always will. But it's also the source of everything beautiful, of love, of creativity, of laughter, of awe, of the quiet pride that comes from knowing you are living on your own terms, fully awake, fully present, fully responsible. Camus' absurd doesn't crush the rebel. It frees them to live without illusions, without guarantees, but with meaning that is raw, fragile, and entirely their own. If this reflection resonated, you are part of a rare kind of community. Those awake enough to know the void is real and brave enough to live anyway. Subscribe, leave a like, and stay awake with me here at The Absurd Mind, because this is just the beginning. Together we explore what it means to survive, and maybe even thrive, inside the absurd. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.